Shiu, Ioldaza. Welcome to the Red Road East. I'm your host, Fierce Truth Seeker. Today, we have a really interesting show, and we will be joined by Brother Toriano ObaShango-El. And the topic is PaleoAmericans and the right of blood. Okay, so now we'll go to our guest on a phone call conversation. Brother Toriano ObaShango-El, greetings.
Greetings. How you doing?
Good. Now, the topic today is the Paleo-Americans and the right of blood. And Brother Toriano ObaShango-El, you are the chief or Muku of the Thunder Clan Olmec Mu'urs?
Yes, that is correct. Gia Confu, Thunder Clan Olmec Mu'urs of the Washington territory. Yes.
Okay. Now, tell us, first by starting off, tell us a little bit about yourself and the Thunder Clan, and then I'll ask you some of the questions that we discussed earlier.
Okay. Well, about 8 years ago, it was, I was inspired to basically come forward with this plan to help our people in this area as far as regaining identity that has been stolen from us. And a lot of us, in this area, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee, places around this area. We all have a oral tradition, from our grandparents, great-grandparents, some even their great-great-grandparents like yourself, telling us where we come from, these various tribes, the area, Texas, places like that. And the thing about it is, a lot of our people didn't know that they had actually been stripped of their identity. And not only being stripped of their identity, they had actually been stripped of their status as it relates to the land. So it was ancestrally inspired that I actually come forward with this plan to help our people to regain nationality and identity that has been stolen from them. And we start from the various levels of family, and then the clan that I put together, and tribes and nations and the founding empire. So that's basically what I do, is to help our people then regain standing in indigenous law as well as international law.
Okay. Now, the first Americans, or
Yes.
the Paleo-Americans,
Yes.
talk a little bit about that.
Well, the Paleo-American, contrary to popular belief or what had actually been pushed in the academic system, systems of the United States, the Paleo-Americans are those people who more than likely you would actually call African Americans today. There's a lot of archaeological evidence as well as paleontology and cave paintings and things of this nature, epigraphical evidence showing proof that the people that they had called Indians actually looked just like what they call Negro, black, colored, and African American today. So, contrary to popular belief, the Mongoloid morphology or the Mongoloid phenotype or the Asian-looking phenotype is quite decent in regards to the archaeology and the epigraphical and cave painting, historical evidence that's being brought forward showing proof that there was actually two ancient migrations here, ways of migration to this land, or two settlements of this land. The first being what they call the Negroid phenotype, classified today as the black African American, and then those that will be classified as the Mongoloid that you would find on, a lot of the reservations and whatnot going further westward in what they call the United States of America. So the Paleo is actually the first. That's the ancient. Paleo-American means ancient America. And then there was admixture between the two groups that created, a mixture of the phenotypes.
Okay. Now, were these Paleo-Americans, did they come from Africa originally, or were they indigenous to America?
Well, that's a good question. As it stands right now, the out-of-Africa theory is slowly eroding. There's more and more evidence being brought forward that the knowledge of the Americas, or as we call it America, because it's really one continent from north to south, is far older than what academia has told people and led on to.
Pause for 1 second, Brother ObaShango. I'm not hearing you. You're kind of fading a little bit. I don't know if it's from the levels upstairs or if it's your mic. So maybe if you could speak up a little bit.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I hear you better now.
Okay. As far as the question you asked, the knowledge of America is far older than what academia has led on to. The out-of-Africa theory is actually slowly eroding because there's more evidence showing that there have been settlements over here for hundreds of thousands of years that actually predate what they call the out-of-Africa migration. And there's one settlement in particular, but this is not the only one. It's called Topa da Esperanza. Topa da Esperanza is in Brazil, and it is dated at roughly about 300,000 years old. There's another one in Brazil that's about 100,000 years old, and it's known as Serra de Capivara. So there are plenty of ancient sites in the Americas. Even in California, you have the Calico site. The Calico site is 200,000 years old. So these dates show that, according to what they're saying, the out of Africa and then the migration over here, it does not. They do not fit the time frame. So that shows you that there was an ancient population here in antiquity, which would be the Paleo-Americans. And subsequently, there were various migrations, coming in from the Pacific and the islands and the lands in the Pacific, and also from Africa, but it was in various time frames. But as far as the evidence that's being brought forward, more and more evidence is compiling to show that there was already a founding population here. That we didn't migrate from anywhere. In other words, we evolved right here in America. And there are some sites that are even older. A good book that you can refer to and research is The Hidden History of the Human Race and Forbidden Archaeology.
Right.
Yeah, Michael Primo was associated with those books.
Yeah, those are very powerful books. Yeah, I'm familiar with those. Now, the term, 'cause I know you deal a lot with law.
Yes.
Now, the term black in law, what do you have to say about that? 'Cause I know that's a term, because when you're saying that the people that are the original peoples here in the Americas are the same people that are referred to as black or African American. Now, does this have, by using those terms, does that impact the people in law? Does it put them in a category that disinherits them from any claim to the land?
Yes, it does. Excellent question. And the reason being is because when one studies law, to actually understand how the law is written, you have to have a good working knowledge of grammar and syntax and the various parts of speech. And when you deal in law, you understand that certain words are adjectives, certain words are nouns, there are certain rules pertaining to nouns, and the law is based primarily on grammar and syntax. As far as positive law, the laws that man makes. We're not talking about natural law. That's a whole other category in and of itself. But the natural law is the supreme law, and the positive law is supposed to mimic the natural law as much as it possibly can. But in positive law, the law that man, it follows the rules of grammar. And if you're calling yourself an adjective, adjectives have no substantive standing whatsoever. It's a description. It may tell what a thing is. It may describe a thing or a person or a place, but it does not tell what it actually is, a person, a place, or a thing. So you have to follow these rules. So that if you're calling yourself adjective, that's just a description. You have an identity, and the identity falls within the category of noun. And a noun, everyone knows, is a person, a place, or a thing, or an idea. So, yes, when you are not in proper identity, it does disinherit you from your estate, your land. And this is the problem that we have been facing, because now the United States has taken these adjectives and wrote them into colorful law as legal fiction. But in law, when the fiction goes face to face with the truth, the fiction has to take a back seat. And there's a maxim of law that deals with that. It says fiction yields to truth. Where there is truth, fiction of law exists not. So this is what we're suffering from, an identity crisis based on legal fiction that pertains to adjectives.
So now, how does DNA fit into the equation? Because I know that you are an advocate of DNA. Now, there's a big issue among the tribes, the indigenous tribes, with taking DNA tests, and this, falls right under the whole blood quantum issue and stuff like that. Because I know in order to be a member of many of the tribes, you have to show blood quantum, and now we have DNA. And a lot of the tribes are against, getting DNA tests. And how do you factor in DNA as far as being something that can be used to validate indigenous claims to the land and stuff like that? Are there different companies that can be used that are more reputable than others? Give us a little bit of information in regard to that.
Okay. As far as DNA, I can understand why the various Bureau of Indian Affairs tribes would be against it in the blood quantum laws, because it goes back to those two populations that I had mentioned earlier, the PaleoAmericans, misnomered as Negro, black, and colored, and also the American Indians, or what they call them, the American Indians, which is actually the Proto-Mongoloid. If you go and look at the various people in a lot of the old pictures, you will find that the Proto-Mongoloid and even some of the people in Siberia, such as the Ket people and the Chukchi people, these people, even though they had Asiatic Mongoloid features, were very, 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 very dark-skinned people. And Mongoloids that had actually populated the Americas. But as far as the Paleo-American, there's no way you can get around that because the morphology of the skulls, cranium, skulls that they're finding, they undisputably show proof that the people who were living at the time, such as the pygmy skulls that they found in eastern Tennessee, these were a Negroid people, what they call a Negroid people, what we would call black or, African American today. And just like the Louisa finding by Walter Neves, Louisa and the Pignon woman and the Hoyo Negro cave girl, these phenotypes, the reconstruction of the morphologies of the skull show indisputably that these will be a Negro people if they were alive today, or they classified as Negro or black. So yes, DNA is very important because it dictates, it shows a road to who's Paleo-American and the subsequent migration there afterwards. So a lot of the blood quantum and things of this nature, that was established by Congress and various legislative bodies because at that time, you had like Walter Neves, not Walter Neves, but Walter Plecker, these various groups of people who were trying to their best to dispossess us as a people from our rightful inheritance as being the first occupiers of the land. And first it started with denationalization of calling us adjectives and legal fiction, things of that nature, all the way down to reestablishing anatomically what makes someone Indian or Aboriginal to this land according to their eyes. And Walter Plecker, he devastated our population with that. And so, yes, DNA plays a very large part because when you go into the DNA, you can actually see the various migrations of various people coming in from the Pacific, from Southeast Asia, and other places around the globe within one human genome. It's like a map in regards to population genetics. Mm-hmm. This is the reason why a lot of people, as far as tribes, underneath the Bureau of Indian Affairs or whatnot, would have a problem with, because it can actually, it weighs heavy as far as evidence of who were the first people here. And in regards to the archaeological sites and the dates of the sites, we know through the genetic mutational timeline as far as when certain haplogroups that come about, only certain groups, haplogroups, were in existence in antiquity during the time of the Topper site, which is like 51,300 years old, the Calico site, which is like in California, which is like 200,000 years old, the Toca de Esperanza site, the Cerro de Capivara site, 300,000 and 100,000 respectively. The Wide Laco site in Mexico, 250,000. There were only certain haplogroups around at that time and certain morphologies or phenotypes around at that time. And the haplogroups and the phenotype will belong to who you call Negro, Black, and Colored today.
Now, as far as now, I know that your background is Apache, Chickasaw. Yes. What's your indigenous backgrounds?
Cherokee, Choctaw, Apache, Washita, and Chickasaw. That's from both lineages, mother and father's lineage.
Now,
yes.
did they ever pass down any oral histories that validated the things that you're saying right now, that validated the science?
Yes, they did. Not as far as DNA. My great-grandmother, when I was a child, both my parents worked. She's pretty much my primary caregiver. She always told us that you're not black, This was a woman born in 1911. She did not have a formal education, but her oral tradition, man, was wow, very, very stark. She always told me that we're not black. Don't call yourself black. We're what they call Black Indians, but we are the first people of the land. You did not come from Africa. You're not African. This is what she told. All right. She also told me, you know, her lineage, her mother, which was Apache. So as I got older and started going out into the world and I traveled, I ended up on the East Coast in Connecticut, and I had relatives up there and on my mother's father's side of the family. My great-grandmother's my mother's mother's side of the family. And I was able to gain family history from them. This was like in the early 90s. I also spent time amongst the Pequot in Connecticut as well. So as I was traveling and getting, you know, more of this family history, I had an experience around about 2012, shortly after December 21st. And my great-great-grandmother, who was in my life when I was young too, she had appeared to me and told me to look for your blood in ancient Mexico. This woman had passed away in I want to say maybe like 1976. So we're talking like 2012. And she appeared in my home. So I had to put the pieces of the puzzle together, actually figure out what that meant, you know, when she had given me that message. And it took me about 6 months to figure it out. It was like around about June or July. And I was just doing some meditation. I said, look for your blood in ancient Mexico. I said, that has something to do with DNA. I mean, I got to find a geneticist. I didn't know the first thing about DNA. And I was always kind of like the tribes. I was against it because I didn't believe that it could be accurate. But anyway, I went ahead, ancestrally guided, and run into Brother Tyrone Cannon. He was very thorough with his science. And when I had taken the test, not only did it confirm what I was taught by my great-grandmother when I was young, but it showed some other things that I didn't even have any knowledge of as far as other populations that was in my gene pool. Melanesian, Australo-Melanesian, Papuan, and the various people from Southeast Asia, you know, and I was blown away. I was very blown away. So it not only did it confirm it, but it showed me some serious antiquity there. Serious antiquity.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and we'll probably have to bring you back on again. And hopefully we can have, I know we were supposed to have Tyrone Cannon on the show today, and I know you're kind of filling in, you know, part of his spot. So we will continue this, and I thank you so much for dropping all these jewels on us, okay? And I'm gonna leave your contact information. Matter of fact, give everybody your contact information.
Yes, you can reach me at ObaShango-El.com. That is O-B as in Bravo, A-S-H as in hotel, A-N as in November, G as in golf, O-E-L as in Lima. ObaShango-El.com. And I'm also on Facebook at Toriano ObaShango-El.
Okay, beautiful. All right, that's all, folks. And man, you know, it is what it is. You know, we have to go. But I thank you for joining us. And till the next time, do-da-da, ga-ha-e. Jamal, take us out with the music.
Thank you for having me.
Ah, shit.
Okay.